Yeah,
Hi, I'm delighted to welcome Semmy Stahlhammer from Stockholm, and Semmy is going to play us one of the Nigunim from the project. Is that correct, Semmy?
that's correct.
Which one
And
would you like to start with?
I will start with number 138.
Sounds good to me.
But I have to play it also. There was this place in a club, when they were telling all the jokes. So everyone knew all the jokes. So when somebody they just said number 138 and everybody was laughing. Should I play it or is it enough if I say 138?
No, it's a mystery to everybody else because everybody only got five, so you're going to have to play it, I'm
I have to
afraid.
play it, okay. Wasn't that a nice ritardando?
Beautiful. I was about to say, you've studied with the greats, you've studied with Galamian and Gingold, and um, I can't understand how you just came to be a humble klezmer. How did that even happen?
It's not really more humble to be klezmer. Sometimes you're almost more humble when you sit in an orchestra to play and you have a conductor, telling you everything to do. You have to be more humble. Here you can be yourself more actually than in an orchestra. So I wouldn't say more, but in a different way, definitely. So I would say that there are different kind of humilities that you have to exercise in different circumstances.
Well, I guess you know all about being in an orchestra, having been the first concert master for the Stockholm Opera.
Yes, that's different.
Okay,
But you were less free then, it's more discipline, you have to behave in a different way, and this way I feel really much more free. I can do
that's
in klezmer, you can do really what you want, and things don't, everything doesn't have to be together. If you play in an opera, if it's not together, it's a shame, sort of, right? And here, if it's not together, it's just the color.
it's true.
That's the way I think of it anyway, a little bit.
We call it heterophonic.
Yes, yes.
That's what we call it anyway. So, how did you come to the whole klezmer field?
It was a little bit like this, that I come closer because otherwise I don't hear you so well. So what happens is that uh, uh, my grandfather had an orchestra in Poland, and they lived in a little town named Krasnik, 50 kilometers south of Lublin. And there they had a barber shop, and the father was a barber. The children helped in the barber shop when they were, 8, 10 years old. They had to start helping in different ways, and very soon after they started cutting and shaving customers. And um, the in the back of the store, the grandmother was a barber surgeon. So they made medicine, yeah, medicines made of herbs, and I remember one of the recipes. If you had the eczema, they took some fat from animals, mixing with not ascorbic acid. That's C vitamin. It's I forgot the name. It's a certain acid and certain things, and So they had the medicine and they had a dancing school upstairs. So they were teaching social dancing, you know, tango and waltz. And on the walls all around the barber shop, there were instruments hanging: violins, balalaikas, mandolins, guitars, and trumpets and things like that. And in the evenings, when there were no customers, they took those instruments down and played. So that was the background of the family. So when my father couldn't study music because the war broke out, so after the war, he ended up in Vienna, and he decided he was going to be a violinist, but he went to the first violin lesson and the teacher didn't show up. So then he never continued. He sort of gave up, and then he did other things. So he became a violin maker instead. But nevertheless, he made me starting playing the violin, and I started playing the tunes that were the favorite tunes that they had played before the war. You know, very simple, nice melodies, and it could be, some of them were Jewish style music, others were, you know, dee da da dee da dee da da dee da dee da dee da da dee, something like that, you know, melodies in that style. So that's what I played, and and then I played mostly classical music after that. And then about 25 years ago, I started playing klezmer because I was, for different reasons, it started sort of with somebody getting married, actually. A friend got married about 30 years ago. And they said, asked me if I could play on the wedding. And then I said, well, yes, but then I started playing klezmer because for the wedding, you know, it was suitable with the klezmer piece. And that's when I started. And then in the beginning, I had a group just with violin and accordion. And now we are 3 people: violin, accordion, and cello. And we have guest singers, and sometimes we have guest clarinet players.
And when you did that first gig, did you play any tunes from your father's and your grandfather's repertoire? Could you play us any of those?
No, not really. That particular wedding was, they actually had some, now I remember, they had a wish. They wished, they had a preference. So they wished a piece called Saposhkelech. You know that one?
Will you play it for us now?
Yeah, it goes like this. You know, the you have heard it before.
Oh yes, many times.
Yeah. So that was a nice piece for a wedding. And after that, I started playing the klezmer more and more. And then I, you know, got more involved speaking with my father, and my father and my mother had collected many of the stories from the pre-war Poland and from what happened during the war, and so on. So I wrote a book about that, actually, and it looks like this. You can see it probably. Yeah. It's named the Code Name Barber, and it describes the fate of my father's family before, during, and after the Second World War.
And could you show us the back, Semmy? Could you just show us the back cover there?
The back is my, let's see here. Yeah, if I do like this, you get a fairly good picture of it. So that's my grandfather's orchestra. So this picture of my grandfather's orchestra is the only picture of the orchestra that exists. And the reason it exists is because my grandfather's my father's aunt emigrated to Montreal 1933, and she took a picture of her family with her. So there are a few pictures in this book that have survived the war only because they were taken to Canada in 1933. because when my father went back to his town after the war, everything was destroyed, or at least it was gone. So so this is the orchestra, and the book has generated a lot of interest. So when I was in Russia, I gave it to some Russian people, and they said, "Oh, this is a fantastic book. We have to translate it into Russian." So now it's translated, and it's printed in Russian. And then I gave it to the Taiwanese ambassador in Stockholm, and he read it, and he says, "Wow, this is fantastic. This has to be translated into Chinese." So now we have translated it into Chinese, but it's not published yet. And English and Swedish and Russian is published. And then I myself paid for, organized the translation into Hebrew. But that's not published either. It's just translated, and sooner or later I will try to print it.
So this is the retirement taken care of. When you stop being a violinist, you'll live off your royalties from your best-selling book.
Not really, because it's not so easy to make money on books. That's very difficult.
Sadly. How about another melody? One of the Nigunim, or something else you play, maybe with your group, or?
Yeah, let's see. Here is a number 67. That was number 67.
It's a great tune.
And they are all very nice songs.
Can I ask you quickly, Lars, Semmy, about Klezmer in Stockholm and in Sweden? Because when we met, I was there at with my band at the invitation of Lars Farago for the Klezmer Queens Festival that he'd set up.
Yes.
Which was very exciting, and we were in two cities, and it was all very exciting. What's happening in general in the Jewish community with Klezmer and the Klezmer community with Jews? No, maybe not that much, but
I remember I remember I enjoyed myself very much at the Klezmer Queen because there were only women. I was the only guy there because this was called Klezmer Queens. So that was a pleasure. And aside from that, there are many klezmer groups in Sweden. One is called Sabbath All Week. The other one is called Kosher Lips. And the third one is called I don't remember right now. It stands still. But anyway, there are several more. So there are many people, many groups. Some of them have been playing for a very, very long time, and they are almost, you know, retiring. And others are newly started. And many of them have singers. So some of them are basically the singer is the main figure with a band in the back more, and others are groups with a band is the core of the group. And so there have been klezmer festivals. As a matter of fact, it was very funny because in a church they had a klezmer festival in a Swedish church right outside of Stockholm. It was an organist in the church who had sort of a Jewish grandfather or something like that. But he was a member of the church because you are not allowed to be an organist or to work in the Swedish church if you're not a member of the church. So he was a member of the church, but he was he had this feeling for the Jewish things. And so we play a lot of klezmer in the churches, I should say. And so the churches have received us very, very well. So in all the years, you know, the 10, 15, 20 years I've been playing klezmer, both in, you know, in chamber music societies and in churches, only once, on all these years, there was once some kind of a priest in a church who said, you know, we don't want music like this in the church. But this has happened once in, you know, in such a long time, so it's really marginal. And otherwise, it's the opposite. They welcome us very much. And what can I say? We have Yiddish klezmer music more oriented into Yiddish, and klezmer music more oriented into you know, parties and dancing. So we have a girl who, when we play at weddings and so on, she comes along with us and leads all the guests. Enhances the atmosphere, so there will be a lot of you know, happiness and so on on the wedding. Also, what we are doing is that I'm traveling around Sweden with a project called Bach in the Street. So I play Bach, and I have a black guy who is originally from what's the name of that country now? It's not Ethiopia, it is Congo. Congo Kinshasa. And he dances street dance, and I play klezmer music. So we have a little show. I teach him to dance klezmer music, sort of, and to Bach and so on, and he teaches me to play drums, sort of African style. And this we go around in the schools. So we have done it about for 2 years now. We have been going around schools in Sweden doing this, and I teach all the children Yiddish a little bit, a few words in Yiddish, and he teaches them a few words in Swahili, and they get a little story of, you know, of a black guy and a Jewish guy who you know, become friends on the subway, because, you know, we are on the subway, and I start playing I forget my violin or something. He runs after me with a violin, and I play for him, and he starts dancing. It's a show that the kids like it. So that has been a nice thing to do. Yeah, that's the idea.
Wow, it sounds like you're really getting around the country and taking it out to the people.
Yeah, but not now, and I don't do anything because
Even
I'm too old to risk getting the corona.
Oh, I see. Well, you're safe because it sounds like in Sweden they're doing a bit of experimentation with the population, a bit like in England.
Yeah, they are experimenting too much, and I think they are not. I'm not so sure I like what they are doing.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're glad you're safe, Semi. Could you give us another tune, one last melody, perhaps?
Yeah. Um, uh, this, which one did I play? Did I play number 138? Yes. 32 I didn't play. But here is a little one. I can take the short one here. It's called 102.
We might want to.
Do you know a piece called uh, I can play that one also. It's called Rosenkis mit Mandeln.
Indeed, I bet that's a popular one at weddings.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Semmy.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to hear the fiddle so beautifully played solo, and we're very lucky to have had you as part of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to be here, and I was very glad that you remembered me, and we have kept a little contact during these 3 years since we met, so that has been nice also. Mm.